Hi, my name is Phil Bradley and welcome to the last video in the series that I've been doing to supplement the book Social Media for Creative Libraries. And in this video I'm going to be looking at social media policies for organisations. Now, in all honesty, it's not the most exciting thing to talk about. So what I've tried to do is to combine a discussion on social media policies with the appendix to the book, where I'm looking at social media disasters, what happens to them, and the kind of thing that we can learn as a result from them. So the first point is, why do we want to have a social media policy anyway? And there are a number of very good reasons for this. We want to be able to protect both the employee and the organisation. If you have a social media policy, everybody knows what they can do, what they can't do, when they should seek help or assistance from somebody higher up in the organisation. It should be clear when one department should deal with a particular issue or a problem and when it's the responsibility of another department, and so on. The organisation also needs to be able to provide really clear guidelines on what isn't acceptable. And this can be a wide variety of different things, such as the kind of voice that you use, the amount of humour that you have in the dealings that you have within social media, even down how you write tweets, for example. Do you contract words or do you write them out in full? Employees also need to have confidence when they're using social media. They need to be in a position so that they are able to say what they want to say or what's needed to be said, and they don't have to constantly check backwards and forwards with people for that, so that they can work more effectively and more quickly. And the last point there, social media is a fast moving river. If you see something and you want to respond, you have to do it really quickly. There's no use in spending hours trying to decide on something. You need to do it quickly, and as a result, if you know what you can do and what you can't do, you can move straight into the next phase, which is deciding how to respond to a social media posting. So let's have a look at some of the social media disasters that are out there, and we can really get a feeling for exactly what it is that you should or you shouldn't do. The first one of these is a guy called Dave Carroll, who is in a band called the Sons of Maxwell. You can go off to YouTube, and if you do a search for United Breaks Guitars, you'll find this guy's video. In fact, there are 3 of them. The problem that he had was that the United airline broke his guitars when he was traveling with them. They didn't show any kind of interest at all, and so he created a video, and as you can see, it's now as of February 2015 had over 14.5 million hits. It became a cause celeb for a period of time, and it went viral, and it got a lot of hits in, well, just within a few weeks, in fact. And the key element there is that in 4 days United stock fell by about 10%, a huge amount of money. Now, the problem that United really got there, if they'd had a sensible social media policy in place, they would have known that they should have done something about it as quickly as possible. They left it far too late. They tried to pretend that it didn't happen, and they were ignoring the power of the internet, and they have paid the consequences. You have to remember that when you're dealing with people on social media, they can really get their message out to a wide number of people. Their messages can get tweeted or copied onto others. So these things have to be dealt with as quickly and as effectively as possible. Never seconds. Again, you may have heard of this one. This is a young lady who changed school lunches, and she was blogging her school lunches in a blog called Never Seconds. Was very critical of the kind of food that she was getting. Her local council talked to her headmaster, who got her into his study, and she was told that she wasn't allowed to blog anymore. So she did a final post to say, I'm not allowed to blog, I'm not allowed to talk about this. Again, that message went viral. People like Jamie Oliver and other celebrity chefs got involved with her campaign, and the ban was overturned very, very quickly due to the amount of very bad press that her local authority had got. She also had a Just Giving donations page on her blog, and she got a huge amount of money as a result. So although it was a downside as far as the education authority was concerned, and they were regarded as being somewhat bullying, it did have a good result in the end, and the child involved, Martha Payne, was named Public Campaigner of the Year 2012. So again, you cannot ignore anybody, even if they are a 9-year-old child. There can always be consequences on that. Everything has to be taken seriously. Chrysler Autos, you can read the tweet for yourself. I don't need to do it for you. The odd thing with this is that Chrysler Autos wouldn't really tweet something like that. What they'd done was that they had got another organisation, New Media Strategies, to tweet on their behalf, and the person who was doing the tweeting unfortunately tweeted from the Chrysler account rather than their own personal blog, which is what they intended to do. The responsible employee was sacked, and I think New Media Strategies also lost the account as well. The consequence from that is you need to be in control of your own social media activities. Don't pass it on to a third party, because you can't trust what they're doing. You have very little control over what it is that they're doing, but at the end of the day, you are the one that has to carry the can if somebody else gets it wrong. Domino's Pizza, Pizza Huts in general, in fact, and fast food restaurants do have a bad rep. This was one where 2 employees were video doing rather revolting things to food. They put it online. It got a lot of hits, almost 1 million views in one day. The quality rating for the fast food chain dropped. The employees were fired, and it took them a long time to get their reputation back. This is another one from FedEx, and what the video clip here shows is the FedEx employee flinging this computer over the fence and then walking back to his van and leaving. That got a huge number of views. FedEx responded with an apology video, and this really did go some way to sorting the situation out. It was done by one of their vice presidents, and it showed that they were taking things very seriously, and they apologized. That's the best thing that you can do. If you get something wrong, apologize fulsomely as quickly as you possibly can do. People will understand that you or your employees have made a mistake, and they are willing to overlook that, but only if you start to apologize. Poor use of trending topics. You may well see hashtags that are trending. Do check out what those trending topics are, and ensure that you only deal with those sensibly, rather than using your trending topic to promote your own product and not some natural disaster. Microsoft also made errors how you can support Japan. For every retweet, they were going to give $1 to the Japanese quake victims. People got really annoyed with that, because it looked like Microsoft was advertising on the back of another national disaster. They got a lot of flack for it, and they apologized. They donated $100,000, but they also tweeted a link to their citizenship page, which did have a very good result on social media. People did think that that was a good idea and a good way of being able to help. So don't try to use any disaster or problem as a way of promoting what it is that you're doing. Another fast food restaurant. This is a horrible video. If you really must go and see it, feel free to. It just shows what you could imagine that it shows. Got lots of videos views to date. Issued with food violations. Thousands of blogs spread the story. Their shares dropped, and people didn't really take them in quite the same way in the future. Yet another problem with a fast food restaurant. And yet another one, this one from McDonald's, they decided to have a hashtag called McD Stories, where they were hoping that people would present good things that McDonald's had done. But what actually people did was they used it to attack the restaurant chain. And they pulled the tag after a few hours, but it's still being used today. So you really do need to think through your hashtag strategy very, very clearly. You also need to consider the general attitude towards your company, or is there a sort of like a niche group of people that really dislike what it is that you're doing? You may be allowing them to hijack something that you want to do positively. Here's another one. Somebody's used a hurricane to promote what it is that they're doing. They attempted an apology 8 hours later, which was no apology at all, and they got absolutely slammed on social media, and they had to give a large donation to the victims of the hurricane. Epicurious had, they say, arranged some pre-scheduled tweets. The problem with this was that after the Boston bombing, those tweets went out, and it did leave a very nasty taste in some people's mouths. Some people didn't feel that they had pre-scheduled the tweet. They thought that they were doing it real time. So if you do pre-schedule tweets, you really do want to consider exactly what it is that you want to say with all of the various possible outcomes. And if something goes wrong, you need to have access to your account so that you can stop those pre-scheduled tweets immediately. And you can see here some of the things that people were saying about them, and they also didn't respond quickly to criticism. You have to be fast, really get in there very, very quickly, apologize, do whatever it needs to really show that you are contrite in what you have done. Cooksource was another resource that was using advertising to make its free recipe magazine available. The problem that they had was that they stole recipes from other people, they put them online, and they didn't attribute them, and the people that had had their material stolen got upset very quickly. They contacted advertisers, who then pulled their advertising, and the magazine didn't publish, and it had closed down. This is an example of where somebody has tried to take on the internet. The Cooksource people were very, very bullish about what they were doing. They made really stupid comments about how they knew what the internet was, and they made comments about copyright, which is complete nonsense, and they just looked really, really stupid. Amy's Baking Company was one that was another social media disaster. It was the celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay was doing some work with them to try to improve their presence, both generally and I think on the net as well. They went on the attack. They said things that they really shouldn't have done, as you can see there. It just really didn't go well for them. The owner faced deportation. It's become a byword for social media disaster. The Amy's image was used in parody images, and I don't know if the company is still going. I would be surprised if they were. BP Global PR versus BP America. You want to make sure that you've got as many different versions of a Twitter name or a Facebook name as possible, because if you don't get them, somebody else may well do. And if there's a disaster like an oil spill, for example, people will start to use parody accounts to very great effect. What BP also did was they tried to get Twitter to take the account down. That didn't work. And eventually what they did was they turned it around. They used Flickr to show what they were doing, how they were cleaning things up. They had a YouTube channel to directly communicate with members of the public, and they engaged directly with it. This is racist ice cream, apparently. Somebody asked about the ice cream. They mentioned that they were Muslim, and Wilcox's ice cream assumed that because you were a Muslim, you couldn't be coming from the United States, and so they made this really stupid comment, and as a result, they closed their Facebook page down, and as I say, they became known as the racist ice cream. Don't make assumptions about people. Deal with their questions honestly and straightforwardly. Don't diss people. Take them seriously and their complaints or their comments seriously. The GoDaddy CEO was photographed with a dead elephant. Interestingly enough, very little happened to this guy. PETA closed their account, but not an awful lot else. And I think it's quite interesting there that this guy just said, yep, I did it, and I was saving a village and so on and so forth. And he sort of like just bullied his way through it and came out the other side with very little problems. Now, I don't suggest that you necessarily do that, but you've got to decide quickly what kind of response you want, and then I think stick with it. You never know who's listening on social media. If you knock somebody off their bike and then tweet about it, the police may well get to hear about it. Be sensible with what you do on social media. And she did have rather unpleasant consequences. A fine, points on her license, and very bad adverse publicity. You can take a comment that you've made in one element of social media and put it to somewhere else. So this is somewhere where Avon and Somerset Police had taken something from their Facebook page and tweeted it out directly. This is the result. Once they'd realised that they made a mistake, we'd arrested 28 people and executed 12 search warrants in a day of action. The results, the before was 28 arrested during the day of action. We've arrested 28 people and executed 12. So you want to think through, if you are going to be using what you've done in one place on social media somewhere else, it's got to work properly for you. No harm was done with that one. It was just quite an amusing one. If you're going to be adding your boss on Facebook, remember that you've added your boss on Facebook, and don't have a go either at the boss or the company. People are watching. You have to remember that potentially the entire world is watching what it is that you're doing. So you really do need to make absolutely clear on when you're saying something and what it is that you are saying. You've got to tweet carefully. Here's an example of a politician who didn't, and as a result they got sacked from their job. In order to avoid disaster, if you've done something wrong, admit your errors, apologise, tell people what you've done to put it right, and then move on. Don't, whatever you do, try and stand up to the internet. It's bigger and nastier than you will ever be able to be. So just admit that you've got something wrong and move on from it. Don't try and deny responsibility. Don't try and delete tweets. Don't try to block people's comments on Facebook and so on, because that will just make the whole situation even worse. You want to have those sensible guidelines. You've got to be monitoring what it is that you're doing. Use proper members of staff. Don't use social media experts. You've got to train and train and train people in what they can and should be doing on social media, and what they shouldn't, of course, be doing as well. Really, you've got to work it out for yourself. You've got to have a comms plan. What's the aim? What are the objectives? You want to look at all of those different elements of your plan to decide exactly what it is that you're going to be doing. So hopefully that was interesting, if somewhat scary, run through of some social media disasters. All of those could have been sorted out very quickly and very effectively, however, if the company involved had had a social media plan in place, or the individuals had given more than a second's thought to what they were actually tweeting about. So although it looks a little bit scary, it really isn't that bad. and you can, with your social media policy in place, really effectively utilize social media for your benefit. That's the very last of the videos. I hope that you've enjoyed watching them and matching them up with the book. If you have any queries or questions, do feel free to get back to me at philb@philb.com or philipbradley@gmail.com, and if I can help you, I will be very happy to do so. So thanks very much for watching. Take care and goodbye.